Hi, this is Amy with Table Flipping Housewife, and this is our project today. It's a 3-piece French provincial set that I've had in my basement for over 2 years, and it is time to get them painted and sold. And why painted, you ask? Because the tops are laminate. I also have these two separate French provincial side tables. The one on the left is a different style, but it does match this one in height. I could use both and split this up into 2 separate bedroom sets. So come join me to see what I ultimately decide. The first thing I need to do is remove all of the hardware so that I can start cleaning this with a good degreaser. I'm definitely keeping this hardware, so I'm going to mark them in separate baggies as to which dresser they go to. I'm also going to be marking each drawer so that I know exactly where it goes when I'm done. Everything got cleaned with a good degreaser. This is a concentrated TSP alternative. I mix it with water in a hairspray bottle and spray it on and wipe it off. Now the inside of the drawers are dirty too, but I'm not going to clean those yet. I'll clean them after I do all the sanding. Now this is why it's so important that you remove your hardware before cleaning, because gross stuff gets hidden behind it. It's always important to clean your furniture. You want to make sure to get rid of any furniture polishes or even oil from fingerprints. Because if you don't and you get a scuff sand, you could grind those oils into the wood, and that's not good. After mixing up some Bondo and making some repairs, there's a big chip of veneer there missing. So I filled that, and in some other areas, I had to build up that corner because the corner like that here was missing. And I did that as well. I'm going to let that dry, and then I will sand them smooth while I scuff sand. After sanding all of the pieces, I wipe the dust off with a damp rag. These pieces are going to need a really good stain blocker. So I'm busting out my can of Zingerbin shellac-based primer. I don't like using this because I can't spray it. I mean, I could, but I don't want to put it through my sprayer. This is expensive. It was $80 when I bought this. I don't know. It's been a while since I've used it. I'm going to roll on what I can tonight. It's not going to be good lighting, so I may not film it. I'm using a high-density foam roller that I'll be throwing away, and my pan is lined with aluminum foil for easy cleanup. When rolling, make sure you have ample paint on your roller and that you aren't rolling with a lot of pressure. Otherwise, you can get ridges of thick primer that's hard to see until paint is applied. You'll see later on what I'm referring to. When everything is covered, smooth out those ridges with a feather-light touch. The following day, I sanded the primer smooth, wiped off the dust, and moved everything to the garage to spray the paint. In the different light of the garage, I found some areas that still needed to be sanded just a bit, so I took care of that and dusted all the dust off. I inserted a long screw into one of the hardware holes of each drawer and then covered both of the holes with tape to prevent paint from getting inside. The screws that stick out will enable me to open the drawers as needed. I tested the spray pattern on a piece of cardboard and then started spraying the pieces. I'm using my Erlex 5500, which is now sold as the 5700. I love this sprayer. It makes very quick work of painting, and the finish it leaves is flawless. I'm painting with Benjamin Moore Advance in the color Briarwood. This is a thick paint, so I thin the paint with water by 15, maybe 20%. This paint does require 16 hours of dry time between coats, but I put up with that because it's such a durable paint. You'll notice that I'm overlapping my rows of paint by about 50%. This will eliminate the risk of seeing those annoying tiger stripes when the paint is dry. I'm also spraying on a thin layer. If I spray too heavy, I run the risk of drips or the paint sagging. Any spots that I might miss will be covered on the second coat. Also notice that my wrist is locked in place and only my arm is moving back and forth. This ensures that there will be an even coverage of paint, even on the areas where I'm shifting direction. It was when I was spraying the paint on this side table that I realized I had a problem with the primer. I recall not having much primer on my rollers. I was pressing down hard that evening to get the primer to cover the top. That left these ridges that weren't noticeable until I painted over them. Boo! I would need to sand to level out those ridges and then repaint the top, but that would have to wait until the next day when the paint was dry, so I closed up shop for the night. The following day, I sanded the ridges off and then sprayed the top again at the same time that I sprayed the second coat on everything else. This side table eventually got a second coat of paint too. Benjamin Moore's Advanced paint, even though if you get a satin, it really does come out semi-gloss. It's quite shiny. So even though it has a built-in top coat, I am going to spray some Bayer's polyurethane in a matte finish over the whole piece to not only give it a little added protection, but also to cut down that shine a bit. I tinted the poly with a little bit of paint to avoid streakiness. So yesterday I touched up little areas that needed a little bit more paint, and it's had 16 hours to dry. So I'm going to go in and put that last coat of poly on it. Last night I did paint the hardware black and I did cut the liners for the drawers. So I'm pretty much wrapping this up and probably the next day. I had decided to sell this as a 4-piece set. I'll keep one of the side tables for another project. All of my supplies came to $215, and I listed the set yesterday for $1,500. Let's take a look at the before and after.